They locked the obese girl in his barn as a joke, but the rancher refused to let them take her back. The boarding house kitchen smelled like burnt coffee and gossip. 5 girls crowded around the table, whispering and giggling. "Tonight's the night," Vivian said, her voice carrying just enough. "We do the barn dare." "Luke Grayson's barn?" Beth whispered. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious." "But he's dangerous," Margaret said. "My father said he threw a hammer at a man last month. Nearly killed him." "He fired 3 workers in 1 week," Susan added. "My brother won't even ride past his property," Beth said. "Says Grayson's got a temper like the devil himself." They all knew the stories. Luke Grayson, the angry rancher, the man nobody wanted to cross. He lived alone on the edge of town, worked his land like a man possessed, and spoke to no one unless he had to. Violent, dangerous. "That's exactly why it's perfect," Vivian said, leaning back in her chair. "It's tradition. Every new girl has to do it." "But who?" Margaret asked. The room fell silent. Then, slowly, all eyes turned toward the corner. Abigail sat hunched on a stool, scrubbing a pot. Her hands moved in slow, careful circles. She didn't look up. She'd learned long ago not to meet their eyes. "Abigail," Vivian called sweetly. Too sweetly. Abigail's throat tightened. "Yes. You've been here 2 months now. Time for your initiation." "What?" "Tradition," Beth said, smiling. "All the new girls do it. We all did." Vivian stood, walking closer. "Tonight, you're going to walk to Luke Grayson's ranch. You're going to go inside his barn. And you're going to stay there until dawn." Abigail's breath caught. I can't." "Why not?" Vivian's eyes gleamed. "You scared? He's dangerous." "You said." "So what?" another girl interrupted. "You're used to people being mean to you, aren't you?" The others erupted in laughter. "Besides," Vivian added, circling her like a predator, "you're built for this kind of thing. Sturdy. Big enough to handle herself," Margaret said, smirking. More laughter. "Look at her," someone whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "She can barely fit through a regular door. Imagine squeezing into that old barn." "Maybe she'll get stuck," Beth giggled. "Luke Grayson will have to grease the frame to get her out. Or knock down a wall." The room roared with laughter. The girls turned away. Abigail sat frozen, the pot forgotten. She wanted to refuse, but where would she go? She had no family, no money. The boarding house was all she had. So at midnight she stood at the back door, shawl pulled tight. The others appeared one by one. "Good," the leader said. "Let's go." They walked in silence through the sleeping town, past the church, the store, into darkness. 20 minutes later, the ranch rose from the hills like a shadow. The barn stood at its center, doors shut tight. "Here we are." "This is his property," Abigail whispered. "If he finds us." "He won't." The leader grabbed her arm, dragging her forward. The barn door groaned open. Inside, darkness swallowed everything. "Go on," she said, pushing Abigail. "Stay till dawn." "We all did it," someone lied. Abigail's heart pounded. She stepped inside. The moment her foot crossed the threshold, the doors slammed. A chain rattled. A lock clicked. "Wait!" Abigail threw herself at the doors. "Let me out." Laughter drifted through the cracks. "See you at noon, Abigail. Maybe?" "You said dawn." "Did I? Must have been mistaken." "Please, don't leave me here." The footsteps faded. Silence crushed in. She pulled until her hands ached. Nothing moved. The air smelled of hay and horses. The cold seeped into her bones. Hours passed. She searched for another way out. Her hands found a shard of rusted metal near the wall. She wedged it into the doors and pulled. It slipped. The edge tore her palm. Pain exploded. Blood dripped between her fingers. She pressed her hand to her dress, but it soaked through. Her head swam. She slid into the corner and closed her eyes. Dawn broke gray. Luke Grayson woke before the sun. He dressed, pulled on his boots, and stepped outside. He walked toward the barn. Then he stopped. The barn doors were chained shut. Luke's entire body went rigid. He never chained those doors. Ever. Someone had been on his property. Rage flooded through him. He grabbed the chain and yanked. It held firm. A padlock. He grabbed an axe and swung. Twice. The lock shattered on the third strike. Luke threw the doors open and froze. A girl lay crumpled in the corner. Bleeding. Barely breathing. He was beside her in seconds. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open. Terrified. She saw him and flinched. "Please, I'm not going to hurt you. Who did this?" She tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. Luke looked at her hand. The blood. The torn dress. Someone had locked her in his barn and left her to die. His hands curled into fists. But not now. He slid his arms beneath her, lifting her carefully. She didn't fight. Just stared up at him with wide, frightened eyes. He carried her toward the house. Behind them, the barn doors swung in the wind. And someone somewhere was going to answer for this. Luke kicked the door open and carried Abigail inside. The house was small. Sparse. A single room with a bed in the corner, a table, 2 chairs, and a cold fireplace. He laid her on the bed as gently as he could. She didn't make a sound, just stared at the ceiling, her breathing shallow. Luke moved fast. He stoked the fire until flames came alive, grabbed a basin, filled it with water, found clean cloth, whiskey, needle, and thread. He'd stitched wounds before, on himself, on horses, but never on someone who looked at him like he might kill her. He pulled a chair beside the bed. "I need to see your hand." Abigail's eyes darted to his face, then away. Slowly she held it out. The gash ran deep across her palm, still bleeding, dirt and rust caked around the edges. Luke's jaw tightened. "This is going to hurt." She nodded, barely. He poured water first. She gasped but didn't pull away. Then came whiskey. Her whole body went rigid. "I know," he said quietly. "Almost done." He threaded the needle and began to stitch. Her hand trembled in his, but she held still. Tears slid down her temples into her hair, yet she made no sound. When he finished, he wrapped her hand in clean cloth and tied it off. "You need to rest now." Abigail's eyes closed. Within minutes, she was asleep. Luke stood by the window, his hands still stained with her blood. Someone had done this, locked her in his barn, left her to freeze, to bleed. His fists clenched. He needed answers. But first, she needed to heal. Hours passed. Abigail woke to firelight and the smell of broth. Her hand throbbed. Her body ached. Then she saw him. Luke Grayson sat at the table, stirring something in a pot over the fire. Terror shot through her. The stories. The rage. The violence. She tried to sit up. Pain exploded through her hand. She gasped. Luke turned. "Don't move too fast." She froze. He crossed the room carrying a bowl. "You need to eat." Abigail pressed herself back against the wall, her heart hammering. Luke stopped. His face was unreadable, but something flickered in his eyes. He set the bowl on the small table beside the bed and stepped back. "I'm not going to hurt you." Her voice came out thin and shaking. "They said you were dangerous." "I am." His tone was flat. "But not to you." He turned back to the fire, giving her space. Abigail stared at the bowl. Steam rose from the broth. Her stomach twisted with hunger, but fear kept her still. "Eat," Luke said without turning. "Or don't. But you need your strength." She reached for the bowl with her good hand. The broth was simple. The best thing she'd tasted in days. When she finished, Luke took the bowl and refilled it without a word. This time, she drank faster. "What happened?" he asked, still facing the fire. Abigail's throat tightened. The girls. From the boarding house. They said it was tradition. A dare. They locked me in and left. Luke's shoulders went rigid. Names. I don't want trouble. Names. His voice was cold. Final. Vivian, she whispered. Beth. Margaret. Susan. Luke said nothing. But the air grew heavier. A knock at the door shattered the silence. Luke's head snapped toward the sound. He crossed the room and opened it just enough to block the view inside. Two men stood on the porch, one tall and broad, the other leaner, older. Luke, the tall one said, heard you had some trouble out here this morning. No trouble. That's not what we heard. The man tried to peer past him. Word is you got one of the boarding house girls inside. She was injured, Luke said evenly. She's resting. Injured how? Someone locked her in my barn and left her there all night. The men exchanged glances. That's a serious accusation, the older one said. It's the truth. Well, the tall man drawled, his tone turning mocking, I'm sure she's real grateful for your help. Warm bed. Hot food. Must be quite the... Luke moved so fast Abigail barely saw it. He grabbed a chair from beside the door and hurled it across the porch. It shattered against the railing, wood exploding in every direction. The men stumbled backward. Get off my property, Luke said, voice deadly quiet. Now. Inside, Abigail sat frozen, heart pounding. She'd heard the crash. Heard the rage in his voice. He really was dangerous. But the anger wasn't at her. It was for her. The men left without another word. Luke stood on the porch for a long moment, chest rising and falling. Then he turned and came back inside. Abigail watched him, trembling. He didn't look at her, just went to the fire and stared into the flames. I'm sorry, he said finally. For what? For scaring you. Abigail's throat ached. You didn't. Turned. Yes, I did. They stared at each other across the small room. Why did you help me? She whispered. Luke's jaw tightened. Because what they did was cruel. And I'm done watching people get hurt when I can stop it. You don't even know me. I know enough. He crossed to the bed and crouched down, meeting her eyes. You're staying here until you're well. No arguments. When you're healed, you can decide what comes next. But right now you rest. Abigail's eyes filled with tears. The matron will come looking. Let her. They'll say terrible things about you. Luke's expression softened, just slightly. They already do. One more rumor won't kill me. He stood and walked to the door. I'll be outside if you need anything. Try to sleep. He left, closing it quietly behind him. Abigail lay back against the pillow, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in months, maybe longer, she felt something she'd forgotten. Safe. Outside, Luke stood in the cold morning air, his fists still clenched. He thought of the girls who'd locked her in. The men who mocked. The town that would tear her apart if they knew she was here. Let them try. He'd spent years keeping people at arm's length. Years building walls so high no one could reach him. But something about the girl in his bed, with her terrified eyes and trembling hands, had cracked something open inside him. And he wasn't letting anyone hurt her again. 3 days passed. Abigail's fever broke the second night. By the third morning, she could sit up without her head spinning. Her hands still throbbed beneath the bandage, but the pain had dulled. Luke kept his distance, brought food 3 times a day, changed her bandage, asked what she needed, then left. He slept outside on the porch despite the cold. When she told him he didn't have to, he'd only said, "You're healing. You need the bed." On the 4th morning, she woke to find him gone. The fire was lit. A plate of bread and eggs waited on the table. She ate slowly, then stood. Her legs wobbled, but they held. Through the window, she saw Luke at the fence line, hammering posts into the frozen ground. Each strike rang sharp across the ranch, measured, angry. Always angry. Never at her. Abigail found a broom near the wall. Dishes waited in the basin. A shirt needed mending. She could do small things. When Luke stepped inside an hour later, he stopped in the doorway. The dishes were washed and stacked. His shirt, folded on the table, the seam neatly mended. "You should be resting," he said. "I've been resting for 3 days. You were injured." "I still am." She lifted her bandaged hand. "But I can't just lie there while you work." He hesitated, then nodded once. "Fine. Nothing heavy. Sit if you feel weak." He picked up the shirt, ran a thumb along the stitches. "Thank you," he said quietly. The first time he'd ever thanked her. That afternoon, Abigail peeled potatoes while Luke worked outside. The silence felt easy now. By evening, they sat across from each other eating stew. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Luke looked up. "Why do you live alone?" His spoon paused. "People don't like me much," he said at last. "Because of your temper?" "Because I don't pretend. This town likes polite lies. I don't do that." "Is that why they call you dangerous?" His eyes darkened. "That, and other things." She waited. "My father had a temper," he said slowly. "The kind that left bruises. Broke bones." Her breath caught. "I swore I'd never be like him. But the anger's still there. Every day." "You haven't hurt me," Abigail whispered. "No. And I won't." "Then you're not like him." Something in his face softened. "What about you?" he asked. "How'd you end up at that boarding house?" Abigail's hands tightened around her cup. "My parents died 2 years ago. Fever. I had nowhere else to go. No family. None that wanted me. So they sent you to strangers. The matron takes in girls with nowhere else. We work for our keep." "And the others?" Abigail looked down. "They've never been kind." She exhaled. "Because I'm fat. You can say it, they do. Every day." Luke's fists curled on the table. "They're cruel. They're honest." "No. Cruel and honest aren't the same thing." Her eyes stung. "You're strong," Luke said. "Stronger than any of them. They locked you in a barn and left you to die, and you're still here. That takes strength they'll never have." Tears spilled before she could stop them. "I didn't mean to," he started. "No one's ever said that to me," she whispered. He hesitated, then reached across the table, his rough hand covering hers. "You are." The next morning, hoofbeats broke the silence. Abigail sat up. Luke was already at the window, tense. "Who is it?" "The boarding house girls." Her stomach dropped. "Stay inside," Luke said and stepped out, closing the door. Abigail crept to the window. 4 girls waited by the fence, Vivian in front, Beth and Margaret behind. "Mr. Grayson," Vivian called, syrup sweet. "We've come to apologize." "Apologize?" Luke's voice was ice. "For the misunderstanding with Abigail." "Misunderstanding? We didn't mean for her to get hurt," Beth added. "It was just a joke. You locked her in my barn and left her to freeze." "The lock must have stuck," Vivian said smoothly. "We came back, but you'd already found her." Inside, Abigail trembled. "But..." "She cut her hand trying to escape," Luke said. Margaret shrugged. "She's always been clumsy." "Get off my property." Vivian's smile tightened. "Abigail needs to come back with us." "She's not going anywhere. She doesn't belong here. She belongs wherever she chooses." "And you?" Vivian's tone sharpened. "What'll people say when they hear you've been keeping her here, alone? Are you threatening me?" "I'm protecting your reputation. People talk." The door opened. Abigail stepped onto the porch. All eyes turned. "Abigail," Vivian said brightly. "Thank goodness you're all right." "No, you haven't," Abigail said. "Of course we have. You locked me in that barn. You left me there. Said you'd come back at dawn, but you didn't." Beth's voice rose. "That's not what happened." "Yes, it is. I cut my hand trying to escape because you locked me in and left me to die." Vivian's smile dropped. Be careful what you say. Then maybe you should have thought of that before you locked the door. For a long moment, silence. Then Vivian's voice turned cold. Fine. Stay if you want. But when this town turns on you, and it will, don't come crying back. She looked at Luke. When they ask what you're doing with her, remember we tried to help. They mounted their horses. As they rode off, Vivian called, "Enjoy your scandal." Abigail stood frozen, shaking. Luke turned to her. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." "They'll make trouble." "I know." "You can still go back." "I don't want to." He studied her face. "Then stay. As long as you need. I'll give you work. Pay you fair." "Why?" she whispered. He looked toward the fields. "Because everyone deserves one person who won't abandon them." Abigail's throat ached. "Thank you." Luke nodded once. "Come on. Let's get inside." They walked back into the house together. And for the first time since her parents died, Abigail felt like maybe she'd found where she belonged. 2 weeks passed. A thin pale scar traced Abigail's palm where her hand had healed. She worked the ranch, mucking stalls, feeding horses, mending fences with Luke. Her body ached at day's end, but it was a good ache. Luke paid her fairly, dropping coins into a tin on a shelf. She didn't touch them. Where would she go? They fell into a steady rhythm. Dawn breakfast, long mornings of work, dinner beside the fire. Words were few. The silence between them became something like understanding. He did not mock her. He did not make her small. He simply let her work. Don, however, watched. Abigail learned that the day she walked into the general store with a list in her hand. The room stilled when she entered. Mrs. Brennan's smile tightened behind the counter. 2 women stopped mid-aisle and stared. "Miss Miller," Mrs. Brennan said, careful. "What can I help you with?" Abigail handed the paper. "Flour, salt, coffee." Mrs. Brennan read the list. "This is quite a lot for one person." "It's for the ranch." "And you're staying with him?" The way she said it made Abigail's skin crawl. "I work for him." "Of course. It's just people talk, dear." A young woman. An unmarried man. Living under the same roof. "I earn my keep. But appearances matter. You understand." A whisper rose to Abigail's right, not quiet enough. "Built for that kind of work, I suppose?" Soft, cruel laughter. Heat surged to her face. Mrs. Brennan rang up the cost. Abigail paid, gathered the parcels, and moved for the door. Mrs. Whitmore entered then, the church leader, eyes like winter. She stopped when she saw Abigail and stepped forward as if delivering judgment. "Miss Miller, I hope to speak with you. I need to get back. This will only take a moment. I've heard you've taken up residence at the Grayson Ranch. I work there. Unmarried. Alone with a man. Do you understand what that makes you in the eyes of this community?" "I have nowhere else to go," Abigail said. "The boarding house." "Tried to kill me," Abigail answered. Mrs. Whitmore's gaze sharpened. "That's a very serious accusation." "It's the truth. The matron says you ran away. That Mr. Grayson is keeping you there against your will." "That's not true." "Then prove it. Come back to the boarding house." "I'm staying where I am." Mrs. Whitmore's face hardened. "Then you've made your choice. And you'll live with the consequences." She swept past, leaving Abigail's chest tight as a fist. That evening, Luke rode into town and stopped at the saloon. Conversation cut out the moment he crossed the threshold. Tom Hadley at a corner table called across the room, loud and bright. "Oh well, if it isn't the hermit himself." Luke moved to the bar and ordered whiskey. Tom's voice kept at him. "Heard you got yourself a live-in housekeeper. That what we're calling it now?" Laughter rolled through the room. "Must be nice, having a woman cook and clean. Among other things." "She's a worker," Luke said. "Nothing more. Come on, Luke. We're all men here. Is she grateful? For all your hospitality?" The last words had teeth. The glass in Luke's hand shattered. He turned slowly, then crossed the room. He took Tom by the collar and slammed him against the wall. "Say one more word about her and I'll break your jaw." Tom went white. Luke shoved him again. "You see a woman trying to survive and you turn her into a joke." "Luke." Sheriff Clayton's voice cut through. "Let him go." Luke released Tom. The sheriff stepped between them. Outside. Now. On the street, in the dust and lamplight, Sheriff Clayton spoke plainly. "What the hell was that? He disrespected her. The whole town is talking. The matron threatens the territorial judge." "Let her," Luke said. "She's claiming you're keeping the girl against her will." "That's a lie." "I know. But it doesn't matter." The sheriff's shoulders tightened. "You've got two choices. Send the girl back. Or marry her." Luke went very still. "If you marry her, the matron has no claim. If you don't, they'll take your ranch. She's been through enough. Then marry her. Give her your name. Protect her." The sheriff left the words in the night. Luke stood alone under the stars, the decision turning in his chest. He'd never wanted marriage, never wanted someone close enough to see the raw, sharp places inside him. But Abigail had already seen them. And she had not run. He rode home late. Past midnight, he pushed open the kitchen door. Abigail sat by the low fire, stitching his shirt, the needle catching and releasing the glow. "You're back." Luke stood with his hat in his hands. "The sheriff talked to me." Her hands stilled. "About what?" "The matron's threatening legal action. Says I'm keeping you here against your will." "That's not true." "I know. But this town, they've already decided what we are." "What do you mean?" "They think you're here for more than work." Her face burned. Silence grew between them like frost. "The sheriff says there are two ways to end this," Luke said. "I send you back. Or I marry you." The words hung. "You don't have to do that." "I know. But if I don't, they'll take you. They'll take the ranch. I won't let you lose everything because of me. It's not just about the ranch." Luke's voice dropped. He faltered, searching. "It's about... I'm not good at saying what I mean." "Try." He looked at her then, honest and rough. "These past 2 weeks, having you here, it's been different. Good different." "For me too," she said, standing. "You don't fear me anymore." "No." "Why not?" "Because I see you now. Not the stories. You." Luke stepped closer. "And what do you see?" "Someone who's been hurt. Like me. Someone who's surviving." "Abigail." He reached for the word he couldn't make softer than it was. A sharp knock at the door cracked the moment. Harder, urgent. Luke opened it. Sheriff Clayton on the porch. Behind him the matron, 2 deputies. The matron held a rolled paper like an accusation. "Mr. Grayson, I apologize for the late hour." Her voice was flat. "What do you want?" The matron lifted the paper. "I have a writ. From the territorial judge. You are hereby ordered to return Miss Abigail Miller to the custody of the boarding house. Immediately." "She's not going anywhere." "Then you'll be arrested. And your ranch will be seized." Abigail stepped forward. "No. Abigail," Luke began. "I won't let them take your ranch. I'll go back." "No. I have to." Her voice trembled but was steady. "A wise decision," the matron sneered. "Come, girl." Abigail turned to Luke. His face was a mask of barely contained fury. She breathed, small and broken. "I'm sorry." Then she walked toward the door. Luke's hand shot out and caught her wrist. The night held its breath. "Wait." His voice was low. Everyone looked to him. His eyes met hers. Soft and dangerous. "Trust me," he said quietly. "One more time." Luke didn't let go of Abigail's wrist. He turned to the matron, the sheriff, and the deputies. His voice was calm but unyielding. "You want her back?" "The law demands it," the matron said. "And if she's not under your jurisdiction anymore?" The matron's eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting?" Luke looked at Abigail. His grip softened. I'm suggesting you lose your legal claim. How exactly? Marry me. The words dropped like a strike of thunder, not a question, but a lifeline. Abigail's breath caught. This is absurd, the matron snapped. You can't just. I can. Luke faced her squarely. If she's my wife, she's no longer your ward. She's under my protection. This is coercion. I'm not forcing anyone. His tone was steel. Sheriff, am I forcing her? Sheriff Clayton stepped forward. Miss Miller, is he making you do anything against your will? All eyes turned to her. Abigail looked at Luke, the man who'd found her bleeding in that barn, who'd defended her, given her work, given her dignity. Her voice was steady. No. Then the choice is yours, the sheriff said quietly. Abigail faced Luke fully now, his hand still holding hers. You don't have to do this, she whispered. I know. They'll still talk. Let them. Luke, I'm not what men choose. You could. He cut her off. You think I care what men would choose? You're the strongest person I've ever met. You survived what they did to you. You work harder than anyone I know. And when you look at me, you don't see a monster. Tears filled her eyes. I see someone worth knowing. Luke's hand slid down to clasp hers. Then know this, he said softly. I'm not asking to save the ranch. I'm asking because somewhere between finding you and tonight, I stopped imagining this place without you. Her heart broke and mended all at once. Yes, she whispered. Luke blinked. Yes. Yes. I'll marry you. The matron exploded. This is illegal. I'll report. Report it to whoever you want, Sheriff Clayton interrupted. I'm authorized to perform marriages in emergencies. And this qualifies. He looked at them. If you're both sure. I'm sure, Luke said. So am I, Abigail answered. The sheriff nodded. Then let's make it official. The ceremony was short, solemn, and binding. They stood on the porch beneath the cold stars, hands joined. Do you, Luke Grayson, take this woman as your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Do you, Abigail Miller, take this man as your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Then by the power vested in me by this territory, I pronounce you husband and wife. The matron's face burned purple. This isn't over. Luke's arm went around Abigail's shoulders. Yes, it is. My wife is under my protection now. Step foot on my land again, and I'll have you arrested. The whole town will hear about this, she hissed. Good, Luke said. Let them hear. Let them know I chose her. The matron stormed off, the deputies behind her. The sheriff tipped his hat and rode away. Silence fell. Just the wind and their breathing. We're married, Abigail whispered. We are. You really want this? Luke cupped her face in his hands. I meant every word. This isn't just about stopping her. When I thought of losing you, something in me broke. I don't want a life without you. Luke. I'm not good with words. I'm not easy to live with. But I'll spend every day proving this marriage is real. Abigail's eyes shimmered. It already is. Because somewhere between that barn and now, I fell in love with you. Luke's breath caught. You don't have to say it back, she murmured. He kissed her, gentle at first, then deeper. When they broke apart, both were crying. I love you, Luke said, his forehead resting against hers. Didn't know how to say it. But I do. Abigail laughed through her tears. We just got married and you're only saying it now? I'm not good at timing. No, she smiled. But you're good at other things. Like what? Like saving stubborn women from barns. Just one, he said. And she saved me right back. They stood together on the porch, wrapped in each other. 6 months later, Abigail entered the general store, a basket on her arm. Mrs. Grayson, Mrs. Brennan greeted warmly. Good morning. Abigail gathered her flour, sugar, and coffee. Women nodded as she passed, Some even smiled. At the counter, Mrs. Whitmore approached. Abigail tensed, but Mrs. Whitmore's eyes were softer now. "Mrs. Grayson," she said, "I owe you an apology." Abigail blinked. "You do. I judged you unfairly. My husband told me what truly happened that night. I'm ashamed I believed the matron's lies." "Thank you," Abigail said quietly. "The town was wrong about you. And about your husband. He's a good man." "Yes," she said, smiling. "He is." She paid and stepped outside. Luke waited by the wagon. "How'd it go?" he asked. Mrs. Whitmore apologized. "The town's coming around." "About time." He loaded the basket. "I don't care what they think. Just that you're happy." "I am." She moved closer. "I really am." He drew her in, right there in the street. "Good," he murmured. "Because you're stuck with me now. I can think of worse fates." They climbed into the wagon and headed home. The town faded behind them. The ranch gleamed ahead. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked softly. "Every day," Luke said. "And every day I'm grateful." "Grateful they tried to kill me?" "Grateful you found your way to me." Abigail smiled, leaning on his shoulder. "They meant it as a joke. And it became the best thing that ever happened to me." The ranch came into view, fences strong, barn bright, horses calm. Luke stopped the wagon. He helped her down, his hands lingering on her waist. "Welcome home, Mrs. Grayson." She smiled. "It's good to be home, Mr. Grayson." They walked inside, hand in hand. The door closed behind them. In the barn where it all began, sunlight streamed through open doors. No more chains. No more locks. Just light. And two souls who had found each other in the dark.